everybody, and welcome back to the Next Level Podcast. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Leslie. So I'm going to do another In Office with Dr. Leslie episode. This one is all about carnivore diet, basically, rather in a way bashing the plant-based diet. I shouldn't say bashing. I'm being a little overzealous today, but really I'm wanting to get into the literature. Okay, I am a doctor in nursing practice. I'm not a medical doctor. I have an actual terminal degree. What that means is I have a PhD. My role is to look at the literature, assimilate it, and see how we can put it into practice. And I do that at the individual level. I apply it to myself, and I've done it in C-level, suite, medical, executive jobs, and organizational, all the levels. So I'm very well equipped and love to look at the literature and really break it down and see how we can use it. And because I'm a little bit of a mad scientist myself, I like to experiment on myself, figure out the life hacks, and master myself, and then share it with all of you. So you don't have to go through all the crazy experimentation. You can just take what I say and apply it to yourself and run with it. And of course, I do love being a little bit of a mad scientist because it is who I am. I am just an investigator and experimenter, and I want other people to have a great life, an easier way than I have it. But again, I like to do this. So anyway, I wanted to first start with talking about the gut-brain axis and the microbiome and this whole thing, because this is really, really pivotal to understanding the fundamental differences in the importance of these carnivore/keto diets and why plant-based diets are so, I want to say, bad, or rather, there's a lot of misconceptions. You know, Western medicine is trying to tell us that they're the best thing since sliced bread, and we really have to look at the literature, sift through it, and just say what is really good, what is really not, what is yet to be determined, and where are these maybe speculations and stretches of information that are existing that maybe don't really exist and they're just assumptions. Okay, so that's what this episode is going to do today, is we're going to dive into a little bit of the literature and some really good pieces of literature so that you can make decisions for yourself and open your mind to maybe what really is out there in terms of eating and nutrition. And again, as you all know, I'm really about mental wellness and mental health. So a lot of what I'm doing is self-mastery, living our best life so we can really achieve an authentic, happy, fulfilled, wealthy, fill in the blank. And a big, big piece of that is our mental health. If we are not sound in our mind, if we can't think clearly and focused, how the hell are we going to reach our best life? How the hell are we going to even know what that is or who we are, right? So our ability to perceive life and receive the information and know who we are happens in the mind. So the way we eat and what we consume is really critical and pivotal to our ability to understand who we are, perceive, receive, all of those things that we need to be able to even start living our best life. Okay, so this is where I bring up the microbiome. So let's just jump right in. The microbiome is just a funny, fancy word for the bacteria that's in your gut. It's also on your skin. It's in your respiratory tract. It's everywhere. It's basically just these little bugs that exist on us and in us, and they're supposed to help us keep a healthy, stable, sort of, we call it homeostasis or homeostatic environment. Homeostasis just means equilibrium, a nice balance. Whereas dysbiosis is when the body is not in balance and the microbiome is off. So the microbiome is basically bacteria, viruses, different types of little bugs that exist on our body that keep us in balance. And essentially, like I said, they're everywhere. But today we're focusing mostly on the gut because we know now that there is something that exists that is called the gut-brain axis. And I had an episode with Mandy White who talked about the gut-brain axis. She is a She was an athlete, a professional. I think she did bikini muscle competitions, a pro. I also had Lorenzo Lazure on, who talked about the carnivore diet. We talked a lot about this in those episodes. But the gut-brain axis is, we know now in research, it's your second brain. So there are many different pathways in which the gut communicates with the brain. And when the gut is not healthy, your brain is not going to function well. And again, on those episodes, we talked about how those people, their focus, their mentality, their clarity, their cognition, memory, many things have improved when they focused on clearing up their gut-brain axis pathways. And so there's a couple of different ways in which the gut-brain axis works. And let me just first say it's bidirectional, which means the gut communicates to the brain and the brain communicates to the gut. It's not just one way. Some of these pathways actually reverse themselves as well. So really important to know as well. So, of course, the neurologic, which makes lots of sense. You have neurotransmitters. We know this now that billions or maybe trillions, I don't know exactly what the number is, or I don't even think we know for certain yet how many illions of neurons or neurotransmitters are in our gut. But you know, when you get those bubblies or the butterflies or that tension in your stomach, you feel sick all of a sudden when you see a horror show or something, that is literally the neurotransmitters that we have in our brain that make us feel good, being excited. So the nervous system is one way that the gut communicates with the brain. And the microbiome, the bacteria and viruses, communicate using that pathway. I will not get into all of the physiology of it. That is for the CEU, the continuing medical education speech that I'm going to be giving at one of the conferences I'm going to be speaking at. And you can search that up if you want to be a nerd and really find out. But that's not for today. We're going to keep it very simple. The other pathway is endocrine. So endocrine is like the hormone system, the hypothalamus and the adrenal cortex. There's actually a hormonal aspect to the communication between the gut and the brain. There's a metabolic and humoral aspect as well. And the immune. So immune system, there's more of like a different types. There's two different types of immune processes that happen. But when food gets broken down and there's fermentation, there's this whole cascade. And these aren't all separate. Oftentimes there's actually cross-linking. Multiple pathways are active depending on what's happening, what's being consumed, and the cascade. There's nothing that is just linear. They're many times linked and they're layered. So the gut-brain axis exists, is absolutely real. We cannot any longer deny that our brain is affected by our gut and what we consume. So what you put in your mouth and swallow is of critical importance to your mental health, which is of critical importance to you living your best life, which is of critical importance to your health, wealth, vitality, happiness, joy, bliss, fulfillment, all of the things, okay? So again, nutrition is super important. I'm going to start getting into a little bit of the myths and some of the, I'm illuminating now, okay? I'm going to illuminate to you some of the falseness of what we're being told in conventional medicine and the trends that are happening right now, and talk to you a little bit more about the up-and-coming trends based off of literature. I don't even want to say the word trends. Let's not say trends. The up-and-coming literature, because this is literature-based. I'm not poo-pooing on anyone. I'm not shitting on Western medicine. I'm just going by what the research says and what other researchers have published, and I'm just bringing this forward to you and from my own experiences and what I've experienced by adopting some of these new discoveries in research. Okay, so traditionally, what we're hearing that we need to do that will help supposedly correct this gut-brain axis, communication pathway, are the use of probiotics. Okay, I'm sorry to tell you But probiotics are not as safe as they're advertised. And again, this is not me saying it. There is literature if you care to have a little look, and I have some references. If anyone wants to message me, I can send those articles to you. There have actually been many studies, but the ones that I'm quoting, brain fog, gas, and bloating is linked to probiotics, which can cause metabolic acidosis. There's actually literature out there as well that is suggesting people with severe illnesses, autoimmune diseases, HIV, different types of very immune-related, immune-mediated systemic processes should not take probiotics. And the theory here is it can further compromise the immune system, but probiotics, when you have fermented carbs, can lead to bacterial overgrowth, resulting in D-lactic acid production, which increases gas and bloating. So your symptomology can actually get worse. Gas and bloating is not natural. Our body doesn't want that. Just imagine what that fermentation of carbs will do to the other pathways. Fermented carbohydrates are supposed to, in the theory of plant-based sort of food approaches, helps to keep the byproducts sort of moving through your system. And there's a lot of, again, it's one of those pathways. However, we're seeing that just because probiotics have that ability to break down and create this fermented carbohydrate kind of process, there are so many more risks involved in introducing foreign bacteria into the gut to expedite that process. So it's actually very, very problematic for many people. And as a clinician, I had seen this. I'd put people on probiotics so many times and they get so much worse. The other thing about probiotics that I've seen, and I've also seen it in the literature, is that we don't know what is going into some of those probiotics. They're not all created equally. Sometimes there are certain types of strains of bacteria that our body is not compatible with. Our system may not work with it, or there's other additives, chemicals that are actually irritating the stomach more, that are way out, they're outweighing any potential benefit that the probiotic might have. So this is really important. The probiotics, we have to be cognizant. I don't take them. I don't need to because I'm on the carnivore and the keto diet, or it's really carnivore. It's a keto-esque diet. It's a completely different operating system that I'm on. So going back to sort of this whole idea of also fiber and plant-based diets, the mechanisms of signaling for the plant-based diets, the change to the microbiome is just speculative. So I know there's a lot of people that promote plant-based diets and on and on and on, but I have a systematic review. Okay, so for those of you who don't know much about research, okay, I have 10 plus years of university experience as a nurse. The very first semester, we started learning about how to review research articles, to break them apart, look at the pros and the cons, the limitations, and really analyze literature. Systematic reviews looks at multiple research articles, assimilates them, and then you do basically what is the literature saying. So you want to always go for a systematic review by a legitimate author, because that basically pulls it all in together. So this systematic review, the effects of plant-based diets on the body and the brain, a systematic review, basically said that a causal impact of plant-based diets on cognitive function, mental and neurologic health, and respective underlying mechanisms has yet to be demonstrated. In sum, the increasing interest for plant-based diets raises the opportunity for developing novel preventative and therapeutic strategies against obesity, eating disorders, and related comorbidities. Still, putative effects of plant-based diets on brain health and cognitive function, as well as underlying mechanisms, remain largely unexplored, and new studies need to address these questions. So it's basically saying that there is, let me go up here. The initial experimental studies proposed novel microbiome-related pathways by which plant-based diets modulate the microbiome towards a favorable diversity of bacteria species. So it helps with the diverse bacteria, yet the functional bottom line signaling of plant-based diet microbiome changes is highly speculative. So there's something that suggests it might have some benefit, but it's, again, speculative of how it actually works. And a lot of people still have bloating and they have autoimmune diseases and they have all sorts of problems when they're still on these plant-based diets. So again, this is a literature review of many, many articles. There are 26 articles in here. So plant-based diets, guys, is not what people are selling you to believe it is. It is not the end-all be-all. It is mostly, quote, in the article, bottom line is very speculative. There's no causal link that is going to actually do a service to your gut-brain axis, which means it's not going to necessarily do anything for your health, either mentally or systematically for autoimmune and other types of chronic illnesses. Now, when you look at the literature for carnivore diet, I'm going to show you a study by Harvard that was done in 2020, and it was published in 2021. There is enormous amount of new data that is starting to come out supporting the positive effects that the carnivore diet specifically has on autoimmune diseases, mental wellness, autism, ADHD, depression, schizophrenia, blood pressure, diabetes, what else? I'll have to look specifically at all of the data. But the reason for this is you're circumventing and removing all of the toxins from oxalates and the damage that is being done by these dense sort of fruits, vegetables, and carbohydrates that supposedly this fermentation is supposed to be beneficial for. But how about this? I know the carnivore, well, what about fiber? You need fiber, you need this. You don't necessarily need any of it if your operating system is completely different. Same organs. It's like an electric car and a gas car. Same thing. They still are moving, and they have the general same functions and apparatus, but the mechanism which you're feeding and fueling it is completely different, right? So what if your body has the capacity to operate in a very different way, but in a better way where you don't need to access as many of those pathways as a plant-based diet is, what we thought we needed to. Maybe there's a better way that our body can operate. And this is what we're starting to find and theorize with the carnivore diet is that, oh, well, we thought we needed fiber. Maybe we don't, because when we actually scrape fiber out, you need fiber to scrape your bowels because you have a bunch of fermented food and a different kind of process going on. What if you didn't have anything you needed to scrape out? What if the bowel was clean from the fat and the other process? Would you even need fiber? Well, that's the whole concept. And that's what we're starting to see in the literature that's being published is not only it's a different operating system where it's not using those main pathways that plant-based diets and what Western medicine has traditionally believed we needed to. If we're doing something meat-based and it's fat and not carbs, you're basically clearing out all of that yeast and all of the bacteria and all the toxins that you haven't, that you've needed all of these pathways to balance out. There's more of a homeostasis is the theory. And again, we're seeing in this Harvard study, I have all of the statistics right here. I can actually go through it. Let me get down to it. Okay, ready? We're going to just go through the stats very, very quick. And this was over 2,000 patients that were on this for many, many months. Let me quote you how many months. Let me go up to the very top. Sorry, I have my cheat sheets here, everybody. Thank you for being patient. I didn't ingrain all of this to my brain. 2,000 carnivore dieters. I can't find it off. I can't find it. I have to dive into a little bit more. Anyway, so here are the stats. How chronic conditions change. 98% improved or resolved diabetes and insulin resistance. 97% improved or resolved gastrointestinal conditions, so like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, whatever. 96% improved or resolved musculoskeletal issues. 96% improved or resolved psychiatric symptoms, so depression, anxiety, irritability, impulse control, those sorts of things. 93% improved or resolved overweight, obesity. 93% improved or resolved hypertension. 92% improved or resolved urologic issues. That's your pee and urinary dysfunction. 92% resolved dermatologic issues like skin conditions, eczema. 89% improved or resolved autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis. 84% improved or resolved cardiovascular issues. Medication changes, 100% discontinued other diabetes injectables. All of them removed their diabetes injectables, which is insulin. And there's other ones too. 92% discontinued insulin for type 2 diabetes. Okay, and on and on and on. Satisfaction, 98% of people reported very satisfied or satisfied with their dietary changes. 91% hunger and food cravings improved, energy level improved, 85% mental clarity improved, 83% focus improved, 8% strength improved. I mean, this is a Harvard study, okay? It goes on and on and on. And so we are trying to understand more about what it is that is actually creating this substantial change. Why? Why is the carnivore diet creating such amazing and profound effects? Well, it's like I'm saying, you're basically not using insulin, right? When you don't have carbohydrates, when you're at ketosis, what that means is your pancreas basically goes to sleep. Your pancreas is responsible for secreting insulin in response to carbs. Insulin is responsible for, obviously, signaling for the cells to put sugar into the cells to be used. Insulin also does a lot of other things, I think a lot more than people realize, and one of those is salt retention, and we need salt for blood pressure, right? So when you don't have insulin, you're not going to have that influx of salt, so your blood pressure actually can bottom out if you're not substantially increasing it. Could you imagine if you don't eat carbohydrates? Imagine if you're diabetic or have high blood pressure and you go on this diet, you cut out carbs, your insulin doesn't exist anymore, and now you have to use salt so that your blood pressure doesn't bottom out. And then you start losing weight and your plaque starts clearing up because you don't have this crazy cascade that's happening. Pretty remarkable, and that's basically what the research study is showing. When you are operating off of a fat-based diet, your body firstly, you're satisfied much faster, and that's exactly what happened to me. My body became so much more satisfied because I'm getting fat. Fat fills you up. There is 8 to 9 calories per gram of fat versus 4 to 5 for protein and carbohydrates. So you're getting a lot more calories. You need a lot less food, but you also get satisfied because your body we are so malnourished of fat. And so you don't even consume as much. You have satisfaction. You're not going to be binge eating. You're not going to be feeling like you have to gorge yourself. But in your bowels, you have this fat that is basically lubricating the bowels, so you don't need anything to scratch out, because when you don't have carbs, you don't have anything fermenting, you don't have any bacteria and yeast building, so you have this really nice smooth bowel that's keeping itself clean. We don't necessarily need to have fiber to scratch anything out because you're not operating in a fermenting or sugar-based environment. You don't have sugar, you don't have yeast, you don't have those same organisms there. So we're also finding in the literature that it helps you reset your bowels doing carnivore, whether you want to do it long term or not. So there's also literature for that too. So there's a lot of misconceptions just about the carnivore diet because there isn't a lot of literature that's out there yet, but there's a lot of medical doctors and healthcare professionals like myself who have adopted this, and we're experimenting with ourselves and we're doing more studies because this is important. We might be actually discovering a completely better way that our bodies can operate for longevity, for anti-aging, for regeneration that we didn't know existed. And this is very exciting times, very, very exciting times, because we could actually get ourselves better by nutrition naturally. And again, on the whole oxalates thing, I had talked about this in prior episodes. Oxalates are found in carbohydrates and an enormous amount in fruits and many vegetables. And that actually prevents our regeneration when we sleep, which is an important part of our restoration mentally, physically. And spiritually, if you want to go there, oxalates, our body is detoxing those at nighttime. It's not allowing ourselves to regenerate. So we're actually aging. And I believe very unnecessarily we're aging. If we don't eat oxalates at nighttime, our body can actually spend 6 to 8 hours healing and regenerating instead of just fighting and detoxifying, right? So again, this is a hack. This is an opportunity for you to tap into your body's natural ability to regenerate itself, which we know it can. We know that our body can regenerate. This is like why the whole regenerative medicine branch was discovered. So again, oxalates are in these plant-based diets, and they're very, very damaging. They're preventing us from being able to heal. And it's interesting to me because I've met many vegans, and I don't push carnivore, I don't push my lifestyle or anything on people, but I've seen a lot of vegans when I was in clinical practice that are very unhealthy. They've got the pot bellies and they run and they do all the things. And it's like, I don't understand how something that's supposed to be better for you can make someone look that way, right? And when I've seen and worked with people, and they still have diabetes or still have their problems, it didn't make sense to me as a clinician. And then when I see people who are primarily carnivore based, they're losing weight, they've got more muscle mass, they're happier, it didn't make sense to me. Now we're starting to kind of bridge that gap together. So I'm not poo-pooing on vegans or vegetarians or plant-based people. I'm literally just looking at it from the research perspective and also what I've seen in clinical practice and how things just were not adding up. So really important information for you guys to sit on. I did also want to give you all an update on my carnivore status too, because I've had more amazing changes that have happened now that I'm several months into my carnivore diet. I have much more balanced pH in my lady situation. My hormones have actually started to balance out as well without needing any hormones. I think you guys saw me on the show with Dan Holtz, who's a hormone guru, works with Tony Robbins and whatnot. And I was going to start hormones with him. And I'm like, I feel not quite there. There was something telling me, just hold off. My hormones have started actually equalizing a little bit more. So I think I'm going to hold off and see how the carnivore diet does for me, because there is some new literature that's saying that because of all the fat and all of the detoxification action, it can actually reset hormones. Again, that's speculative, but there's growing evidence to support that. So I'm going to kind of see for myself there. In terms of the lady situation, because we don't have the bacteria and we don't have all the sugar, vaginally, vaginosis and different types of, things that women can have sometimes, even, post-period dysregulation and odor or whatever. Sorry, guys, it's getting a little bit graphic about lady stuff. I should have done a little warning and disclaimer before it. But, it's a very, very different situation. And I know other women who have gone on carnivore, their female lady stuff has really equalized and been beneficial down there. So that's a really, really big thing too. I have also noticed an incredible amount of strength and endurance when I've been lifting weights. I'm shredding and I barely have to work out at the gym. My ability to lift and squat has just been explosive. So I'm very pleased that, again, much of the experiences I'm having, are being shown in other studies with the carnivore diet. So, and of course, as always, it's all about mental health and my ability to really control my mind. And when I was younger, I really battled with obsessive compulsive disorder, truly like the pathologic, not just the, I have a cleaning problem. And that has been, it's just a different way of being. My clarity, my perception, my ability to just really see myself and observe myself, and my awareness and my ability to be meditative and be really present. It's allowed me to take the coping mechanisms that I've had to control my tendency to be a little bit more fixated on things and a little compulsive or a little ticky or fidgety, as a way for me to express that extra like energy. It's really allowed me to cope and observe and control those sort of expressions of my brain chemistry, my brain makeup, and transmute it and allow me to work it in a way that actually is serving me. So I'm in this whole new understanding of how I can work with my brain. And the beauty of my dysfunctional brain wiring, as people would want to call it, I really think my tendency towards OCD is such a beautiful wiring, because I now am seeing how I can work with it in a way that benefits me instead of it being a liability, which it used to be when I was a child. So this is a really magnificent time. We're in very exciting times. I'm excited because I'm discovering so many amazing things about myself and about how to life hack, and the research is starting to support it. And now I get to share it all with you from an objective as well as a subjective perspective, so you can take with it what you want to and make your life better and happier and healthier and wealthier and blissful and all those things. So that is all for today. I hope you all enjoyed the In Office with Dr. Leslie, all about gut-brain access, carnivore, plant-based diets, and all of the myths and the up-and-coming literature and exciting discoveries that are upon us. And of course, my little personal experiences with the carnivore diet as well. All right, I love you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being a supporter. Until next time.